welcome back to another live episode of Chat with James. Tonight it is going to be a little interesting. I am looking to see what kind of numbers we get on this live feed from our ProPic studios here in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, given that our American friends are not going to be able to join us tonight. Now, we all know about the ban on TikTok or the ban of TikTok in the United States. I'm curious to know, though, if you think that the ban actually has anything to do with national security, or if it is strictly the U.S. banning TikTok in order to force it to sell out to American billionaires, such as those who have put their names forward in trying to purchase TikTok for the U.S. We know that the national security risks is what some are claiming the reasons behind it, while others in the U.S. Congress are saying that it's because TikTok creates such a threat as a propaganda network, which I think that, you could look to the likes of YouTube, of Facebook, of Instagram, of X, and you could see just as much propaganda being spread on those networks as you do on TikTok. So my personal opinion is that it is more about protecting billionaires and US-based social media platforms than it is about the concerns about security. Again, feel free to share your thoughts on it. Welcome Jenny to the show. Purple X Doc, welcome. Jenny, welcome. Yeah, so feel free to share your opinions on what you think is behind the ban of TikTok in the United States. Now, we know that with Donald Trump taking office on Monday, there is a good chance that he will sign an executive order pushing an extension for TikTok to allow TikTok to come back for a 90-day period while they review other processes that could bring it back permanently. So again, it's my thoughts that the real reason behind the U.S. ban of TikTok has got to do more with protecting U.S. billionaires than it has to do with national security. And again, there are several congressmen and senators in the U.S. that are claiming it's being banned because it is a very big platform for spreading propaganda. But again, I don't see the difference between that and Twitter or Facebook when they talk about it being a concern for governments such as China to get their hands on information about the U.S. Again, I don't see a big difference there between that and the American-based social media platforms that have been banned in places such as India, where, of course, they don't have the U.S. platforms either. So it is kind of a tit for tat when it looks at that. But again, looking at the 170 million users of TikTok in the U.S., I think that they are getting screwed at the hands of the U.S. government, utilizing the ban as just a forced sale, almost an extortionist extortionist tactics to force a sale of a tech giant to a U.S. company. We know that there are many companies and individuals, including a certain Canadian. I'm not even going to say his name because he is, let's just say that he is what he is. But at the end of the day, he and others wanted to buy TikTok for $50 million. Some numbers say 20 million, billions, not millions, billions. But if you look at the valuations that are put out there on Twitter, the valuation of Facebook, the valuation of IG, and others, I mean, for the billionaires in the U.S. to be offering 20 billion or even 50 billion, I think is trying to get it at a fire sale price. And again, the question is the U.S. government trying to extort the owners of TikTok, being ByteDance? Are they trying to extort them into a sale at fire sale prices to a U.S. conglomerate or individual? Either way, I don't think it's right. Of course, we know that this is, the inauguration weekend. It'll happen on Monday. And the question, of course, remains, why is Donald Trump moving the inauguration indoors? He claims that it's got to do with the cold and the weather. Although he claims it's the record low temperatures, which is not even close to true, and the inauguration's been moved indoors while people have spent thousands of dollars traveling to Washington, D.C. They wanted to be a part of it. They wanted to be there for the history of a president being sworn in. But again, people also paid for tickets to have good seats for the inauguration, who are now in Washington, and they won't be able to see it. They'll actually have to go to the arena to watch it via video feed. So again, those people who have put money out, who have supported Trump and really were looking forward to being a part of the inauguration celebration have been screwed. Excuse me. You can see already that there are major protests going on in Washington, D.C., and I don't think that's going to be anything like January 6th. I think it's still going to be a peaceful transfer of power. I think the protesters are going to remain peaceful and have their voices heard that way. I do question whether or not that is actually the true reason why Donald Trump has decided to take his inauguration indoors. For me personally, I think it has more to do with the protesters and the fact that he doesn't want the cameras to pick up small crowds and then again have side-by-side images of his crowds versus, say, Obama's, who again was out there in the cold to do his inauguration. So again, the weather shouldn't be a big concern for the inauguration. There are outdoor heaters that they can use for the president and others that are actually up at the podium. There are ways called jackets, scarves, and gloves that can keep them warm. I mean, are these foreign concepts to them? I don't know, but at the end of the day, I don't believe that it is honestly due to the weather that they want to move it indoors. I think they want to just move it out of the public sight, get away from the protesters, and again, not have records of the crowds that actually show up. I think he's afraid that there are going to be so many Trump supporters that have already given up on him and are already realizing that they were disillusioned through the process and through the race up to the election. I think that a lot of people are realizing that they were lied to, that they were screwed all the way through by Trump and his people. I think that there is also a lot of people that are going to be joining all of the protests in Washington and throughout other U.S.-based cities. But again, I hope that it just remains peaceful protests. I don't think that there will be any real violence breaking out there. I think that we won't see another January 6th event. I think people want to see the U.S. move forward in a positive way. But again, I think that people are really upset with the direction that it's going already, and yet Trump hasn't even gotten into office yet. So welcome everyone again to a live chat with James. I'm coming to you from Vancouver, British Columbia. Please feel free to put in where you're signing in from. I'm always curious to know, especially now that the US is banned off of TikTok. I would love to know where you're watching from, so feel free to let me know in the comment section. Trash Bandit, welcome. Aziz, welcome. Banana, Boring Fun Loser. Hey, that sounds like me. Julia, welcome. Thanks for your comments. Powwow Dude joined. Whereabouts is the Powwow Dude? That's what I'm wondering. Is it going to be in Ontario, in British Columbia, or where is it being held? There is an amazing powwow that's held every year in Ontario, just next to Golden Lake. And I've got to make my way that way one of these days for the annual powwow. It is just an amazing event. The reservation, the people there are just amazing. It is beautiful there. So again, if you're in Ontario, just outside of Ottawa. Golden Lake is a beautiful community, and the Pikwakton Nation next to it is just amazing place, amazing people, and yeah, you can check it out. There's a restaurant and a gas station there. I strongly suggest the restaurant. Goodness, the name of it just escaped me, but again, it's a great place to visit. The lake is beautiful as well, massive. Take your boat out, enjoy yourself. There are several RV camps there, and yeah, it's a great place to visit, right on Golden Lake in Ontario, just outside of Ottawa in the Ottawa Valley. So again, every summer they have a massive powwow there, and yeah, I'm hoping to get out there this summer for it. It is a beautiful place. So back to the Trump issue. Of course, we know his inauguration is coming up on Monday, and anybody who follows my channel knows that I am not a Trump supporter. I am not a Trump fan, and I just shake my head. I believe that there was corruption in the U.S. election. Whether it was enough to make a difference of the final outcome, that I don't know, but I do believe that there was some interference and corruption there. I also think that with the foreign interference going on from countries such as Russia, China, India, Iraq, I think that not only do we see the foreign interference in the U.S., but I also think we're going to see a lot of it in the Canadian election now that Justin Trudeau has stepped down, or will be stepping down once they appoint a new leader of the Federal Liberal Party. I think there's a lot of concern in Canada by Canadians about the foreign interference, especially given that we've already been confirmed about the previous two Conservative leadership races in Canada that have been proven that there was foreign interference, and again that helped to put Pierre Poilievre in charge of the Federal Conservative Party of Canada. That really, in my opinion, probably has a lot to do with why he has not yet gotten his top-level security clearance. The India government is involved in a lot of foreign interference, but so is Russia, so is China, so is Iraq and others. So we'll have to watch how that plays out in Canadian politics. We definitely want to see a clean race, but again, I think that with the release, if you're unaware of the report coming out January the 31st, is when the Foreign Interference Inquiry report is due to be delivered to Parliament. But what's going to happen with that? Flexed up Freezy, thanks for the rose. So yeah, with that report being due, it doesn't necessarily mean that the report is going to be made public on January the 31st. There may be redactions, there may be covering up of names and parties that were in line with the foreign interference, who may have cooperated directly or indirectly with the foreign interference. And the inquiry, of course, started in 2023 and went for the last 2 years, essentially, or a year and a half. But that report, again, is due to Parliament on the 31st. So it's going to be interesting to see. As I said, I think there's going to be a lot of delays in getting that report out into the public eye. And then, of course, we have the concerns of what's going to be redacted and allowed out to publish. This English so condo. I don't have any clue what that means, but thank you, Just Josh NYA. So in any event, so we have a lot of the concerns about that foreign interference, but we also have concerns that the Elections Canada and the federal government have also stated that although CSIS, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, and the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, will be closely monitoring the leadership race for the Liberal Party and the upcoming election that we expect to happen probably, I would guess, in the fall of this year. But again, they are not taking extra steps or introducing any new measures to secure the election process in Canada. And that to me is a concern as well, especially considering, if you're not aware, countries such as India spend hundreds of millions of dollars a year on their chatbots and on their misinformation campaigns that they spread around the world, whether that's interfering with Canadian politics, U.S. politics, the transnational repression, their mistreatment of minorities in India. I mean, the India government is just one example that spends hundreds of millions of dollars a year on misinformation campaigns and transnational repression, as well as foreign interference. So again, that should be a concern for all Canadians involved. And by being involved, just the fact that you are a Canadian citizen should concern you at the level of interference that potentially could come into play in the next election, but also the amount of foreign interference that actually ended up assisting Pierre Poilievre to get to the position he's in as the leader of the Conservative Party. So I'm not here to promote one party or another. I'm here to basically give you the facts and let you make your own decision, but at the same time call out the bullshit when I see it, when it comes to the politics that are out there and the corruption. And that's a sad thing that the world is so corrupt as it is. I mean, you can look south of the border, you can look here in Canada, you can look anywhere, and you're going to find corruption if you look well and hard enough for it. Excuse me there, got to enjoy my coffee. But again, for those who are just joining us, again, you're watching Live Chat with James here at the ProPic Studios in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. I would love to know where you're signing in from. What parts of Canada or where else in the world are you joining this live chat from? Please feel free to put it up in the comment section. Once again, I'm extra curious tonight with the ban in the US that's taken effect earlier this evening. I would love to know where people are signing in from. So feel free to post that up there. Also, if you have topics that you would like to discuss, this is an open forum for everybody to have conversation about anything. Scal from Ontario. There you go. We were just chatting about Ontario out in the Ottawa Valley. Superstar 555, welcome from Langley, BC, just down the road from myself. I'm actually in South Surrey, on the South Surrey White Rock border in Metro Vancouver. So, one of my neighbors almost. Welcome. So let us know where else you're logging in from. It is a big world, and it is always cool to know where people are at. Out there in Langley, in Ontario, and who knows where else people are joining us from. I know that probably not too many people joining from Russia, even if TikTok's available there. I know that Putin does not like me, and neither does the Russian government, for the fact that I reported a couple of years live from Ukraine on the Ukraine war. I was there in Ukraine on the front lines and reporting war crimes and atrocities there. So I know that probably not seeing too many people from Russia, because I got banned for the longest time on my other account in Russia. So they blocked my accounts there when I was reporting from Ukraine, and of course that remained banned. So it's always interesting, but as we are going into another new year, it was hoped that we would see peace in Ukraine by this time, but again, it hasn't happened. I'm very curious to know if any of you out there believe that the war will end with Trump going into office on Monday. Do you think that the war will end in Ukraine? Do you think he has the power or even the desire to actually end it there? Just curious. Share your thoughts on that subject as well. As for what's going on elsewhere in the world, a gentleman in the U.S. has actually bought the old private plane of Elvis Presley, and it is in very rough shape, but he paid over $200,000 for this private plane and is looking to restore it. So I'm curious, as I love Elvis music. I think that he was quite the entertainer, so I'm very curious to see if that plane gets restored or not. And yeah, that's just one of those useless facts of information that you collect throughout the day, and has absolutely no bearing on anything except for the fact that I'm just curious to see how the plane turns out if they restore Elvis's plane. Just a part of music history, I guess, and that's my biggest attraction to it, is I love music. I love it, and I have an appreciation for not only the music itself, but the whole story writing process when it comes to lyrics and composition. And I just love music overall. I think that it is one of the most impactful means of communication across languages, across just every barrier. I think that music really transitions very well from language to language, region to region. I mean, for example, you listen to whether it's Indian music and Punjabi music, or if you listen to Mexican music, Spanish, like all of these different areas that you'll go to. It may be regional, it may be in a foreign language, but you can still get into the music itself, just the rhythm, the beat, the riffs. I just love music and appreciate it from all over the world. Even though there may be music I don't understand the lyrics to, I can still appreciate the music, the blood, the sweat, and the tears, essentially, that artists put into creating their music. So it's amazing. Motown Corey, welcome. Tommy Fabulous, Craig Aker, welcome everyone. Steve-O in New Zealand, I assume that you're in New Zealand. Again, I encourage everybody to share their area. Let me know where you're signing in from. Again, with the US blocking TikTok just hours ago, I'm curious to know where everybody's joining this live from. It is a beautiful night here on the West Coast. It's a little chilly, but it's fairly clear, nice clear skies. But I know that parts of Canada, the US, are both being hit with some amazing storms right now, winter blizzards. The prairies, I know that they've been recently hit by some blizzards. So by all means, tell me where you're signing in from and let me know how's the weather in your part of the world. Unfortunately, we are mostly logging in from Canada, I'm guessing, but what do? Oilers 99. What did you think of that game tonight? Unfortunately, a loss for your team of the Oilers against the Vancouver Canucks, but boy, at the end of the game with those major penalties that are going to be assessed or reviewed by the league, it's going to be interesting to see how that works. Especially with one of them being looked at against Connor McDavid. I mean, I am a Canucks fan. I'm a diehard Canucks fan, but I have a lot of respect for the Oilers. I actually lived in Edmonton for a few years, and my brother's company, he owns a couple of moving companies, and they delivered an elevator to the Rogers Arena there in Edmonton. And it was funny because it was not long before the facility opened, and it turned out that although the elevator was the right dimensions, they built the elevator shaft to the wrong dimensions. And how that happened with all those engineers signing off, I don't know, but just a funny story for you that, yeah, they ended up having to deal with that and custom make a new elevator to fit the shaft there at the Oilers facility. But what a beautiful beautiful arena that is. I think that it looks really modern and cool on the outside, but inside just a beautiful place, and then the transition into the casino and everything is great as well. So yeah, if you're ever in Edmonton, by all means, check out the Rogers Arena there and the casino. Go down to the Ice District. It is definitely beautiful. And the new museum there. They have a great museum in Edmonton as well. So by all means, any of our other viewers outside of Edmonton, check it out if you're in that area. West Edmonton Mall, well, a lot of people go there, but I think that West Edmonton Mall is quite run down and outdated. There have been some renovations, I understand, but again, it is, I think they've got to really amp it up if they want to reattract the tourist dollars that they used to enjoy. But again, the world is changing, and this economy, and between the world shutdown for a few years and then just the economy, I think it's a tough time for tourism all over the world. So again, if you are looking at somewhere to go in the summertime or even the winter, Edmonton is always an option, but you know, that's to personal choice. If you like the outdoors in the winter, there's a lot to do there. So check out the ice fishing, the the snowmobiling, all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of cool things to do there. And of course, we know that we are without a lot of our American friends on here. Again, for those just joining us, please let us know where you're signing on from in the comments section, because of the fact that with the US ban on TikTok, we're just curious as to what people are thinking. Do you really believe that it has to do with national security in the US, or do you think there's something else at play when it comes to the TikTok ban there? And interestingly enough, the CEO of TikTok is actually invited and going to be at Donald Trump's inauguration, and that has apparently pissed off a lot of the both Democrat and Republican senators and others, the congressmen and such, because of the fact that they have shut down this app, and they say it's for national security reasons, and yet they're allowing the CEO of the company to be in the White House for a presidential inauguration. So there's a lot of irritated people, we'll put it politely, a lot of irritated politicians down south that are upset that the CEO of TikTok is going to be at the inauguration. But again, it's I think it's just going to be a temporary situation. I do believe that Trump will give them the extension for 90 days, which he has the authority to do. He can sign the order and give them a 90-day extension, during which time I believe that there will be some type of deal worked out to keep TikTok in the United States. I personally would hate to see it sold to the U.S. Billionaires who are lining up and trying to buy it at fire sale prices. I think that if the app was sold to the U.S., I would almost say that it would be under duress and under almost an extortion to force them to sell to U.S. billionaires. So I just think that it's more about the valuation stock prices of other U.S.-based social media platforms, including Donald Trump's Truth Social. When you look at Facebook, Instagram, X, all of these platforms, I think it's all about protectionism for U.S. technology, U.S. based social media apps. So again, I think that there's a lot more than just the fact that they claim it is a security issue for the U.S. But that, again, is just my opinion, and I would love to know what your thoughts are on that issue. I would love to know your thoughts on all issues, or if you have a topic yourself that you would like to discuss, by all means put it in the comments section. This is a conversation place for everybody. You don't have to just listen to me chat. You can also suggest ideas and all of that. Yeah, that's just an excuse. Narwhal, yes, I'm glad to see other people agree with me on that. I think that it is just disgusting that there are US-based billionaires, and Canadian if you factor in Kevin O'Leary, but that they are offering, between $20 billion and $50 billion to buy out this app. When you look at the valuation of Facebook, or the valuation of X and so forth. I mean, if you're willing to pay $44 billion for X, I personally feel that TikTok is worth much, much more than that, and that they are, as I said, trying to get it at a fire sale price, just trying to screw the owners of TikTok out of it. I think that's a big part of it, and protecting the stock price and the stock valuation of US-based social media platforms. Again, I don't know, but that's my feeling on it, and I'd love to know yours. By all means, share up there. Narwhal, I appreciate you joining theirs. Why not just start their own TikTok app? Well, and that's just it. I mean, if you look at the various companies have tried to compete with TikTok, and whether or not you're looking at Reels, you're looking at YouTube Shorts, you're looking at all of these things, and there are several different ways, or several different things I'll touch on here. First of all, nobody is doing it as well as TikTok in terms of where it's at. Number two, when the billionaires start their own apps to compete with TikTok, of course, if you are looking at those of Facebook, Meta, and all of that, people are wanting to get away from those certain apps given their history of sharing information and breaching confidentiality, customer service, all of those different things. So there's a trust issue, I think, with a lot of users when it comes to those apps. And if, Meta and all of those guys tried their own new TikTok app, I think it's going to be met with the same skepticism and the same concerns, I think, that they're trying to say are strictly China when it comes to using your user info and your user data. So I think that's one of the issues. I think also that TikTok has done really well when it tries to support the content creators. And with that, content creators have been able to do very well when it comes to the financial advantages of being a creator with creating unique and original content, as opposed to just pushing the other content by those paying the other apps to get in front of you. So I really do believe that TikTok definitely has more concern with sharing revenue with the creators in the US than the other apps do. I think that is a big thing. And when you look at the advertising revenue and then also the paid placement of videos in the US, a lot of them are celebrity based. A lot of them are paid for by the movie studios and all of that. So it's really interesting to see that. But again, they are more driven by the stock valuations, I think, than TikTok as a whole when it comes to retaining revenue. I think that TikTok has a great platform to not only share with the creators, but also to give a much fairer playing field for individual creators and independent creators. So whether that's musicians or songwriters and people creating comedy and that, I think that TikTok offers a much fairer playing field in comparison to the big boys. So what data can China get from TikTok that they can't access already? And that's just it. And that's a very good question, Narwhal. And that is, again, when you look at the congressional hearings and you hear them questioning the CEO of TikTok, and he's going on about, well, can TikTok access the Wi-Fi in my house if I'm using the app? Well, of course. It has to connect to the internet, which, they really didn't want to hear those answers. And it was all a witch hunt to try and make people think that there was a much higher substantial risk to using TikTok than there really was. And I think that's really where people need to call bullshit on it. I think that Pierre Poilievre, once again, I refer to him as the Trump Light, or Trump 2.0, whatever you want to call it. But now he's talking about having TikTok banned in Canada. again, I think that he is just, really parrots a lot of what he thinks works in the U.S. And I mean, he's a career politician that just really hasn't done anything to help Canadians over the years besides, take part in the name calling and the false narratives, the misinformation, the lies online. Again, my opinion, but that is what it is. Do I believe that it's time for a change in Canada? Absolutely, I do. I just am really concerned about what options and what choices we have going forward. What options there are for leadership in the Liberal Party, but I'm also concerned about what options we have when the election comes, regardless as to who's leading the parties. I just really think we're getting screwed come the next election, but that's also up to how many people turn out and have their voices heard. So I encourage everybody, when the election does happen, get your ass off the couch, get out there and vote and make your voice heard, no matter who you're voting for. That, I think, is very essential, that we see record numbers on election day when it happens in Canada, even if you are voting against the majority. It doesn't matter. I think that what's really important to send a message right now is that everybody gets out to vote, or at least we see huge numbers of increases over the last several elections. I think that is very important to show that the politicians are accountable to all Canadians and not just the small group that has been turning out in the last previous elections. But again, that is just my thoughts on it. If there's other topics you want to talk about, by all means, throw them up on the screen. As many of you know, I do host a talk show on another TV network, TV station, and their streaming network as well. But in addition to that, I do a lot of background and day calls in the acting industry within Vancouver. So whether it's The Good Doctor or Fire Country, a lot of Hallmark specials. You can see this guy having a heart attack and getting shocked with the defibrillators. If you watch Hallmark's Heart of the Matter, you'll see me as a heart attack patient. You can watch Batwoman TV series, where I was played Ezra and had my eyes gouged out with rusty spoons and a sword put through my chest. So funny thing about that is a lot of the roles I get, they want me to just play a fat old guy that dies or is dying. But no, I love the film industry here in Vancouver. Unfortunately, we have seen a really steep decline in the number of productions happening in Vancouver, but that is industry-wide. There's been a lot of cutbacks in terms of streaming services when it comes to new productions. That's with Netflix, that's with Amazon Prime, that is with Apple. All of the main streaming platforms seem to be cutting back or merging together. There are several mergers and acquisitions going on. Hulu with, I forget who they're teaming up with or joining to expand. But yeah, there's, I think, going to be more of the mergers of the streaming platforms as we see things tightening up around the industry. Unfortunately, it is also a time of challenge going into the film industry of 2025 in Los Angeles as well. We know with the fires there and the devastation that's been going on in Los Angeles, it is already been hit hard with the reduction of filming in Los Angeles and at the studios. They saw a bit of a jump there at the end of 2024, but now with the wildfires and everything else, it's going to just add salt to the wound, essentially, for those filming in Los Angeles or those people trying to make a living in Los Angeles from the entertainment industry. So again, it's going to be a tough year, I think, for the film industry as a whole, whether you are filming in Orlando, in Vancouver, in Toronto, in Los Angeles, or other areas of the U.S. and Canada. I think it's going to be a tough year for film and entertainment. But at the same time, I think that this is the final adjustment coming to the streaming services and the end of networks. I think that network TV is really going to see a jump towards different programming and formats, but of course lower budget I think is the biggest thing that we're going to see. Yo, is Canadian good? Well, it depends on what in Canada you're talking about. There's lots of good in Canada. There's also some bad in Canada. Like any world, or sorry, any country, you have the good and the bad, the ugly. Toronto is a beautiful city. I was born there, although I've been raised since I was about 9 years old or 10 years old in Metro Vancouver. I was raised in the city of Burnaby on Capitol Hill. Now I live on the border of White Rock in South Surrey. I've been back to Toronto many a time since. I moved back there for a couple of years when I was younger. I've also lived in Los Angeles. I lived in Malibu and Santa Monica, so I have lived quite a few different places, and I love traveling, but I'm just sitting here in Metro Vancouver these days, enjoying the West Coast. But yeah, I'll probably be in the Toronto area and Ontario this coming summer. And again, I'll do some live shows while I'm there, as well as I usually do when I'm traveling, whether that's in Poland, in the UK, in Ukraine, Canada. Doesn't matter where I go, I tend to do some live episodes. And maybe I'll make it up to Northern Canada again in the next year. I was up, of course, a couple of years ago, up to the Arctic, up to Dawson City, up to Yellowknife, and of course, if you are heading in that direction, you can always stop at Watson Lake as you cross the BC-Yukon border. Beautiful little town in the Northern Rockies. And then, of course, that is also home to the world-famous Signpost Forest there in Watson Lake. If you go there, I usually recommend hotel-wise. There's a motel there with new building as well, and that's right at the gas station when you come into town. It's called a Nicer Motel, and it's actually very nice, and the ownership is just amazing, very friendly, very welcoming. And so if you happen to be up in that area, by all means check it out. But don't forget the Signpost Forest. If you're heading up through Watson Lake, definitely a stop worth taking, and check out the street signs and the wayfinding signs and that from all over the world. That actually started back during the World War when some U.S. soldiers posted a sign stating how far it was away to their hometown. And then ever since then, just thousands and thousands of signs from around the world have been added. So yeah, if you're ever heading up towards the Yukon, or if you're cutting through Canada, well, not that you have a choice, but if you're traveling the Alaska Highway heading to Alaska, by all means you're going to be going through Watson Lake as well. So yeah, take time to stop there. It's worth checking out, roadside attractions, and it is great. Why doesn't a VPN work? I assume that you are asking about the TikTok and using the VPN. Now, the VPN can work. However, with that said, of course, you have potential fines that can be levied against those who are, whether it's the VPN companies or whatever, they can actually be fined for allowing access to the banned apps. But again, if there were mass numbers of people on the VPN, it still doesn't take away that people cannot be spending money on advertising revenue. And of course, that's what's going to make the social media platform successful, is the ad revenue and the money associated with that. So without that, it really is not advantageous or financially and fiscally responsible for a corporation to continue pouring money into research, development, updates, and all of that. So again, that is the big reason why VPNs are not going to be a fix-all for the TikTok accounts. As far as I know, though, people should be able to use VPNs to actually, as a temporary short gap fix to get on. But again, if they are registered as American users on their accounts already, especially when they come to being content creators and such on the platform, of course, they already know where they are based, or if they are U.S. based, where their payments are for those creators who are making money on it. That becomes not an option as well. So it's a tough one. It is definitely been an interesting situation there. And again, as I said, Pierre Poilievre thinks he's going to just follow the US and go through the motions of banning TikTok in Canada. But at the same time, as I say, I don't think that this is going to be a permanent ban. I think it's just a temporary blip in the system. I do believe that TikTok will get a 90-day reprieve from the president when he takes office on Monday. I think, as I said, there will be the 90-day extension and allowance for TikTok come Monday or Tuesday. That'll be done. But again, we'll have to see. As I said, one of the biggest things that TikTok has running for it in its favor right now is the ego of Donald Trump and his narcissism. Now, I say that because once, let's go back here, is that Trump was one of the ones that started talking about banning TikTok in the US. He wanted that movement to happen. He has started that during his last run as president. Now, as time's gone on, now it's actually happened. But what's happened since then and now is that Trump has actually become very popular on TikTok, and he has become an influencer, believe it or not. But yeah, so now that he understands the power of TikTok and how it feeds his ego by having that many followers and having that much popularity, of course, now he is rethinking the whole banning of TikTok because it's feeding into his ego and his ability to grift people on all different products and services and, all of that. So I don't think that the TikTok ban will last long. The only concern I have, again, is the way that they are essentially using extortion to try and force a sale to U.S. or Western billionaires that are friends with Trump and, of course, would directly benefit certain individuals in the U.S., including Musk, Zuckerberg, and others. So that should be a big concern when the U.S. utilizes these bans and this method to force a sale and compliance of a foreign company. They could just as easily do that, ban a Canadian company and then force it to be sold to the U.S. billionaires at fire sale prices. So I have a big concern about that. Howdy, yes, Trump said he will put it back on. Through executive order, he can do that for 90 days, and then it would be a matter of trying to find ways to work around it from there. Again, for him to go against the Supreme Court order and decision is a little tougher, and it's going to be possibly quite expensive, but again, who's going to pay for that? Definitely not Trump. So I do think that there is an opportunity for TikTok to come back, and we'll have to watch over the following days. As I said, right away I think Trump will sign the executive order to give it the 90-day extension, and then just a matter of moving forward from there. The concern, though, that I can see TikTok having at that point with the 90-day extension is that it doesn't give them any long-term guarantees. It may be a short-term stopgap fix for 90 days, but again, it doesn't give TikTok the long-term stability and guarantees that they would like moving forward. So it's still not out of the woods, even with the 90-day extension. And then again, you've got to look at the fact that the U.S. with this could withdraw that 90-day extension at any time. So if they piss Trump off, or his cronies and those billionaires that have circled the wagons with Trump, such as Musk or with Zuckerberg and so forth, if TikTok pisses them off too much, then again, the U.S. can withdraw that short-term extension at any point. So again, that's going to be tough. Norwal, your real-time GPS coordinates. I'm not sure what you're talking about there, but I would assume we're still talking about the VPNs and whatnot. But all right, folks, I am going to take a break for about 10 minutes. I will be back in about 10 minutes. I'm going to wrap up this live because in order to repost it, it usually has to stay in under an hour to repost it for people to join the conversation at a later time and throw things up on the comments. So, howdy, and won't he look like a hero when he does? Yeah, well, I don't think he will. I don't think he's going to look like a hero for saving TikTok or extending it. But again, he thinks he looks like a hero at all times, so we'll see what happens there. So once again, folks, I am going to take a 10-minute break, and I will log back in with a brand new chat window. So unfortunately, you will be disconnected here for a few minutes, but again, feel free to come back on in about 10 minutes time, and we will continue conversations. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. It's James here at the ProPix TV studios in Vancouver, British Columbia.